opinion, you do need to be fired immediately. And it is because this is gross incompetence. And the fact that it's been 9 days, and these are simple questions to answer. I'm quite sure if I asked any one of my kids if they got in trouble and I told them to give me the details, I would get more answers from them than I'm getting from you right now. And that's what's frustrating on a bipartisan basis, on a nonpartisan basis. This is a joke. And director, you're in charge. And that's why you need to go. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair now recognize Mr. Goldman from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, I want to follow up and just understand a little bit why there is so much information about this out in the public, including some from you and your communications team, and yet you're here pursuant to a subpoena under oath in front of Congress, and you're unable or unwilling to answer some of those same questions. Can you just explain why you are answering so many fewer questions here than you have to the media?
I'm answering the questions that I'm able to answer based on the fact that there are multiple ongoing investigations.
But you have answered some of these questions previously, correct? To the public, to the media.
Which questions?
Well, did you have an interview with ABC News?
Yes, I did.
And did you explain the interaction between local law enforcement and the Secret Service, and that local law enforcement was responsible for securing the perimeter of the building where the shooter was?
I said that the Secret Service is responsible for designing and implementing and executing the security plan, and that we rely on the assistance of our local law enforcement partners to assist us with that.
All right. Hi, everyone. I know there's not many people here right now, but Ham will be on in 10 minutes, 2 5-minute periods. Finger is down a penny at 2:02. GTII is at a penny. There's no bid and ask on GTII. The volume is 103,000. On Finger, the volume is 70,000. What goes on in the markets is all fraud, at least, and Ham always corrects me. He says it happens in all stocks. I think it particularly happens in stocks under $1 billion in market cap. I think it's intentional. I think the government is part of it. I think the people that are in the regulatory offices are part of it. And I think the big funds that you put your retirement money with are part of it. You probably should just put your money with them. Get on the side of the criminality instead of investing in stocks. I found, I'm just going through, it looks like I'm gonna be moving soon. So I've just been throwing things away. And I found this is from 2020, and it's recommending, I mean, broadly, the article points out, the headline of the article is, "How fast is the United States going down the tubes?" And this was written almost 4 years ago. Dow was 30,000. Debt, talks about debt, talks about all the things that are still going on now. But it says it's easy to forget that gold is up over $300 for the year. This is back in 2020. Even after the recent price action in which it tested support at $1,850. Gold right now is at $2,400 an ounce. And you might not even have noticed Bitcoin at the time this was written 20,000. But he says, this is exactly the time you need to pay attention to gold and silver and add to your position on price weakness. Now, let me, the boo birds out there will say, well, it's been 4 years. It hasn't happened. Why is it going to be right now? Often when you get information, you get ideas, it can be early. But if the story hasn't changed, just say a Hail Mary and be thankful for your opportunity to still get in. Gold is up. I can't do that percentage in my head, but gold is up $600-700 since this article is written, and you still have the opportunity to do this action. I've reminded you that any uptick in inflation in 21, he was writing before 21, should be bullish for precious metals. As an early warning indicator, West Texas Intermediate WTI crude oil prices are up 16%. I have no idea where they're up. They're up now. This, you could just take this thought process and shift it forward 4 years. So then, anyway, this is what got me, because I've talked about it, but people have asked, and I'll give you one. We've only got 6 minutes, but I'll give you one caution. But he's recommending the Van Eck Junior Gold Miners ETF, which is GDXJ. It's God, David, X-ray, Joe. And it had just crashed when he recommended it. It then rallied hard as a wall of money headed toward the markets. And he's predicting that they're going to overshoot the 2 or 3% inflation target. Well, they did. In a previous lifetime, I did run an options trading service based on macro trends. This is interesting. I like this. I don't know what he's talking about, Heisenberg. He says this brings it back to Heisenberg. I'd have to read the other 5 pages to figure that out. You think you've got the direction right, but if you get the speed wrong, you'll get the trade wrong. And if you get the timing wrong, it doesn't matter one bit how right you were about the idea, you still lost. That happens over and over and over again in the market. So anyway, 4 years ago, GDXJ has declined to its mid-May high. If we are still in a bull market for gold, and gold is breaking out right now, that should be a level of support, meaning there's more upside ahead. All right, I'm going to skip all his blabbing about the chart because it's 4 years ago. Our thesis, he says, is that all fiat money, that's all currencies, and financial asset prices are in a long-term decline against real assets, most especially gold. The clearest expression of that trend is the Dow to gold ratio, which was currently at 16%, at 16x. While Ham comes on, I'll try to calculate it. I've only got 3 minutes before he rings in, and we'll have to go at a New York City speed, talking about the same things you've heard every day for the last year. The second thing going on is the price action in miners. When you miss out on the asset, when you don't quite have, you feel, enough money to buy gold directly or silver, you can make a bet on the miners. A bet on miners is a bet on higher gold price, but it gives you extra leverage, and that's the key thing. Of course, with leverage is risk. Companies are also run by people who need people. They have real costs, and people can be fickle. I'm not reading this about the little private gold, quasi-private gold company that I recommended to everybody, but because he said this, I mean, I recommended that the company contact you. that company, this little company that many of you have participated in, and I have through the grace of an angel, that they can't short it. They can't short it. It's brilliant. It has the same short squeeze potential everyone's looking for, but they can't be in it. Anyway, the GDXJ chart above still tells me you have time to get in on the trade. No kidding. There was 4 years. If anything, there's going to be volatility. Okay, then he says, that's what you should be looking for. This is why I wanted to read it. I got 1 minute. That's what you should be looking for. A chance to buy gold and gold stocks if they go lower in the short term. This can be applied to finger or any investing you do. Most people do the opposite. Most people do the opposite. They buy high and sell low. Maybe it's a cognitive bias, only acting after events have confirmed your thinking. Training yourself to do the opposite, really to think in the opposite way, is one of the hardest things an investor can do. It's tough. It's especially hard right now when all the price action is screaming for you to buy stocks, which it is. I think the stock market's going much, much higher. Resist, train your mind, think for yourself, and then look at the chart below. So then he shifts to the iShares Mortgage Real Estate Trust, which I'd like to study that. There, we ran out of time. Joe Robinette Biden.
Are you live?
I'm live, and I'm alive.
Okay, let's go. Let's have fun here. All right. We got 79 trading days. We got 3 more hours today before we drop to 78. I spoke to a gentleman, a friend of mine, that's not even in a business, who knows economics. He can understand the crime. He said these guys are just standing here fainting because they know they're trapped. All right. They're going to try to do everything to make it look like they're not covering, but they're going to have to cover. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. For those who are not paying attention, this is free inside information. You know the dates. You know what they have to do. You can figure out the size of the shorts. All right. The opportunity, and pick whatever stock you like. Knock yourself out. And you got a life-changing opportunity right in front of you on all these names. Patrick Byrne will wipe the street with these people. He knows the crime better than anyone. Devin Nunes and the chairman from Rumble, 2 guys who got political clout on their side. Dan Bongino is being rumored to be the head of the next Secret Service. And we have Devin Nunes, who was on the Intelligence Committee, leading the charge, using his political clout to have people investigate. And you say, well, how do we know he's investigating? It's right there in his interview from the Republican National Convention, right? It's right there, all right? I can't guarantee you, but this is as close as you can get. I've been doing this 24 years. Everything is aligned. We have the most powerful man in the world who they try to murder, whose company is being naked shorted. You have to be insane to be sitting here short that stock. Just using common sense. If you're short this stock, you are considered someone that was trying to assassinate the president. And I'm sure they're all going to be dragged in and investigated to see who you are and what you do, because someone was trying to assassinate the president, the former president of the United States, or the next president of the United States, and they shorted the stock. Everyone even knows about it. I was just watching Alex Jones, William. I don't really know him, but everyone tells me to look at it. And he's supporting the thesis about naked shorting the stock, trying to profit from the assassination. So everybody knows about it. And I'm sure the Secret Service, the FBI, has to look at the motive to make money off the death of Donald Trump. And they all gonna get dragged in. You have to be insane to still be short the stock. All right. This is a major positive that they didn't kill Donald Trump, and B, that these idiots went out there, stood out like a sore thumb. Just like insider trading. These guys are insider trading. The SEC catches people buying 10 options. Guy shorted 12 million shares of stock. No one's going to catch who this guy is. So again, this is a perfect storm. I wish it was today so everybody could move on. And people stop trying to get me riled up on Twitter because I just block you. I don't care anymore. The game's over. The fraud is over. It's 79 days to go, and it'll be 78 after 3 more hours today. That's all I focus on. You can pick whatever stock you want to follow. I still follow GDC, ZJYL. I don't own ZJYL, GDC I'm involved with, okay? I don't have enough money to play them all. I do follow Kodak. I don't own it. It's got 1 billion shares short there. Keep an eye on that if you want to trade. I think a break is 620, 625. It really starts to move. There's over 1 billion shares short here. I met the people at Wolf a long time ago. Real deal guys. You know, they keep trying to manipulate and hold the stock down. It's another stock with 1 billion shares short. Okay, that was who Yorkville, I think, was Yorkville on that side. So I follow all these names. So pick your own, whatever one you want to do. I specialize in 2. I follow GTI Finger. William again. People keep sending me text messages. What about GTII? And I'm very nice. I write back to everybody. The company needed to add fundamentals a while ago. We've been saying it. Management has been dragging their feet and has it. Richard Hoffman has led a charge with a bunch of big investors trying to remove management so that they can get a merger candidate in here and add fundamentals. And there's been nothing but good people trying to do things here. Richard updates us all daily, weekly, every week he's giving you updates on what's going on in the court system. They believe they'll be able to remove management, put somebody in here, and turn it around. The company was moved to a different exchange because of a filing that was late. They believe they'll be able to get that back up and running. Once the filing is approved, then the company will move back to the regular exchange. What you're seeing in this so-called gray market, they called it a professional market. It's a gray market. If you were short, okay, if I was short millions of shares of these guys, why wouldn't I sell it back and forth to myself at the lowest possible price so that you can get people to dump their shares? That's what they're doing. I can't stop it, but that's what they try to do. And that's what they've done. 100,000 shares. My friend was bidding for 1 million at 3 cents and hasn't bought a share. And it traded at 1 cent. They sell it back and forth to themselves so that you can question what's going on here. That's it. I follow Richard Hoffman. That's all it is. I posted the proof again. The DTC, the SEC, they all told us that there's a big short position in the stock. What did they do with it? I don't know. All right. We know they didn't cover. That's for shit sure. Anyway, so that's about that one. Finger motion, William, there's something on Twitter. Let me pull it up for you for 1 second. I retweeted it. I thought I did. I'm sorry. The CEO of Finger Motion is doing some sort of presentation somewhere. William. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Online CEO presentation, a Q&A on July 25th at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Register. It's right there on, I'll retweet it again. Register, ask any questions you like. He's right there. Find out what he does. Find out if, what any questions you want to get answered. Again, I followed the Naked Shorts. I happened to follow this company because I thought they had something real in China, the biggest market in the world. And company's been nothing but attacked by short sellers. So if you want to do your homework, it's right there. If you want to ask me about naked short selling, I have the answers. Finger motion doesn't follow naked short selling. They know about it. But like all public companies, they just sit here. No one actually has the proof in their hands all the time. So it's very hard to get that information. And if you start talking, usually the SEC attacks you. So everybody kind of lays low and let it happen here. I'm reading something Busy Brands put up. Citadel Securities response to Truth Social regarding targeting. Citadel brazenly targeted our CEO with unhinged attack. Here's our response. Citadel Securities, corporate behemoth, find incentives for incredible wide range of issues related to naked short selling. And they said that they're the last company. And the Truth Social said Citadel is the last company on earth that should be lecture anyone on integrity. I mean, so these guys are just insane. If you stole, William, $4 billion, I would lose $2 billion and run away as long as I can get away without going to jail. These guys are so insane that they sit here and still continue to play the games and thinking like Madoff or the guy from FTX won't go to jail. They're putting people in jail for 20 years now, 10 years. So again, these guys deserve to be in jail. I spoke to a friend of mine who had a buddy and, I forgot the charge. They offered him, he got caught and the FBI is offering him 7 years. And I forgot what he did, but it was ridiculous that someone who didn't even murder anybody, it was gambling or something like that. They offered him 7 years. People are murdering people, committing all kinds of crazy crimes, and they get away with it. A guy that does some bookmaking is being charged to put away for 7 years. I mean, so here are these guys, talk about being thieves. They're stealing billions, and no one says anything about it. So I gave you the date on the time, William. The 25th, Finger Motion is presenting. It's online. Register, and you can go in and listen, and I guess you can ask the CEO questions. Help yourself out. It's easy. These are life-changing investments. Read about it. Understand what's going on. Richard Hoffman, GTII. Follow him. We can't do anything. The CEO has to leave. Richard spearheading that. You can't keep asking us the same stupid question, and we're moving on. GameStop, same thing. Again, you buy the dip, sell the rip. They're trying to hold it down. Give it a 1 day, 2 day, cha-cha. It'll start to move away from the 25 area. If you're lucky to know it here, my friends I know own it between 26 and 27. So they're down $1, but they made $8 already. So they're down 1.5 from where they bought it. So they're still +6. And they're taking the shot from that level. DJT has been disappointing. It's 34.56. I don't even know how they're still attacking it. It's only traded 5 million shares versus the 70 and 80s the other day. So again, this thing has to have its day in the sun. And you know what? 79 days to the election, Pat Byrne will wipe them out. Any questions, William? I tried to touch on as many as I could.
How did your doctor's visit go today?
Oh, I had a great doctor's appointment for everybody who's interested. I got a clean bill of health. I went to the doctor. He gave me a cigarette and a drink. We met each other, and then he went to town. He gave me a clean bill of health. You gathered where I'm going with that.
Moon River.
My first date with him. I said, "We just met, Doc." Okay, let me go. But everything's good there, and but that was pretty funny. I called William about that. He didn't want to hear anymore. So
Leave me out.
but
Leave
people
me out.
you know what? People don't even understand it. We have families, we have lives, we have to go to doctor's appointments. We do the same shit as everyone else. and we give you our time. And I'm not taking shit from anybody. I've been doing this 24 years. I've been threatened. You name it, I've seen it. All right, we've called the
Novak
police.
Djokovic had a career during that time.
We've called the police.
You're
I
proud
can't
of
tell you
yourself?
how many times. All you have to do is go on Twitter. Everyone is screaming about naked short selling, from MMTLP to KOSS, Kodak. I posted Kodak William again. Kodak had, I remember, north of 1 billion shares short. We tried our best to get at least Stefanak and the city of Rochester to get behind it. We can't save the world. We're doing as much as we can. All right, Pat Byrne is the world saver. He's coming. And Pat Byrne I told you before, his mission, I don't believe we're going to make it to 79 days. I think it's going to end before then. But again, Pat Byrne is the guy that's going to stand up for everybody. And I think Donald Trump is going to do the same thing. He's not just going to make it DJT. He's going to say, all right, if it's happening here, it's happening everywhere. And it's got to end. And for the life of me, how the U.S. government, the SEC, FINRA, allows people outside of this country to steal money from inside this country and have no idea what they're doing is just amazing. We don't know if it's a terrorist organization. We know nothing about it. But we do know that everyone's getting robbed. Your pension monies, first responders, doctors, nurses, your kids, your grandkids. It's just a disgrace. And then someone posted on GTI, how come this, for a company that has nothing, who's all the bashes coming out? What do they got to say about this thing? I told you before, bashes should be throwing people a party that talk positive about a stock, right? Instead, they try to make more noise and chase you away and say all these crazy things. What would you do? If I was short these stocks, I would be pissing on it all day long. I'd be washing trades, making it look weak. I'd be selling small amounts every day, trying to mark it down. Everything to discourage you. I would have people like Capybara write fake reports, Hindenburg, depending on the level of your stock. Everything you can. And when those guys get caught, they all cry. Andrew Left's afraid he's going to jail. He belongs in jail. You know how many stocks this guy destroyed and how much money people lost because of this? Just look at Hindenburg in India. They wrote that fake report on that major company, and I think the Kingdom Capital made $4 million off of his fake report, and the company lost a $15 billion market cap, got wiped out. And you tell me these people don't belong in jail? Any other questions, William?
One guy's very persistent. He must be trying to get the negative across. Why won't Lind continue to sell shares of Fingers short, even with good news? It answers itself, but I'll let you.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I was going to say. What is he talking about? Well, listen, if you believe the short seller is going to continue to do it, then go try and short it. You can buy puts on the stock. Go ahead, knock yourself out. Buy the $2 puts, buy the $2.50 puts. You might as well be in the money. I bet the company's going to go to zero. They can't do it anymore. They're running out of room. The company's
My own opinion, this might be a legitimate guy or might not, but it shows to me that I think the shorts feel the pressure. They're here to tell you, oh, even with good news, it's bad news. Stop listening to the liars. There's so many liars out there. Anyway.
Yeah. How could you tell me a company that gets a contract all throughout China is bad news? Why bother doing anything? Right? Do nothing and it's okay. Do something and it's bad news. People, listen. If you're not in the stock market and you have no idea, understanding about what doing business means, then you need to move along because I can't help you. Just go to a store in your neighborhood that has no customers in it. You're going to sit there and say, boy, they get some business or they're going to go out of business. Or you could say, wow, look at all the people going here to eat. It must be a good restaurant. The company's making money. That's all it is in Wall Street. Companies get contracts. It takes time. They make money. They build the company up, and they get revenue, profit, and it goes. That's it. These criminals have found a loophole, and they just continue.
It's not a loophole. They pay off everybody. It's outright
whatever it is.
corruption through the whole Wall Street system. But anyway, go on. I interrupted you.
Well, again, all they try to do is discredit the company, and the best way to do it is to drive the stock down. And everybody says the same thing. Well, the stock isn't performing. What's wrong with the stock? There must be bad news on the way. The bears has come out. The CEO sold 10,000 shares. If you were the CEO of a public company and you got stock as your compensation, what are you supposed to do with it? They use it to pay off their bills. They take a lesser salary. A lot of smaller companies, they get stock. If they sell 10,000 shares a month, whatever it is, they pay their bills. They're regular people. Would you work for free? No. This is what these companies do. They're always under attack. I told you I met many CEOs. And the first thing I say to them, what color is your certificate? And they go, why? I said, because you're never going to be able to sell it because the shorts are going to torture you for it. And that's what they do to them. That's exactly what goes on.
Okay, so you answered Mike's repeated question, why won't Lynn Partners continue to short even with good news? Another gentleman is pointing out that GTII is at 0 now. It's like it's seller boxed. Before Ham talks, let me just quickly say.
Don't forget that seller box. I just told you to do it back. Who wants to, listen, do me a favor. Go sell one share at 0. What do you get for it? 0, right? Who would sell it at 0? I don't even, that's the worst example of what you're talking about I've ever heard in my life. They're doing it back and forth. I just explained it to you. What would you do if you were short? Hey, let's cross it at the lowest possible price. The company has to do a filing. Listen to Richard Hoffman. What do you want us to tell you? There's nothing to discuss. William, I don't even go into it. There's nothing.
All right, good. Done.
There's nothing to discuss. Does anyone have any questions about any stocks in the universe besides GTII and waiting for a filing and for the management to get their asses kicked out for not putting a deal on the table? That's the same thing over and over again. Follow Richard Hoffman. He's updating us on court, on what's going on in the court, trying to kick them out.
What's the English? What percentage of the trades in GTII today are wash trades?
Probably all of them.
What scares me about GTII is if the owners of the company die, wouldn't they sell shares to the shorts? Couldn't they just sell us out?
So here it is on that GTI question. The company has been served. They're in a court proceeding in Nevada. And if anyone in the company is doing anything wrong, they'll be exposed and it'll be a crime, a federal crime. So now tell me, would you want to go out there and try to cover shorts and sell stock to people to cover them while you're under investigation right now? Do you think that would be wise? Would you do it? Because if that gentleman says yes, call up GTI and tell them, I'll sign that paper. Give me $50,000 in cash. I'll sign the paper and cover the shorts. And when they come to arrest everybody, I go to jail for them. That's what he just said. That's equivalent to what he just said. No one's doing anything. The eyes of Texas, as I would use, are all watching GTII. The courtroom, they're trying to put someone in. It's called a receivership. Is that what it's called, William? I forgot.
It's in receivership. They're going to appoint a receiver.
Right. So they're going to appoint someone that will take over and basically get the ship going the right way. That's what we're waiting for. That's it. No one can do anything. It's on lockdown. And I'm sure it's going to get a lot worse for them. And I don't believe anybody's going to do anything there to cover the shorts to do anything like that. If anybody wants to make noise, call the SEC up and ask them about the proof that I posted it 20 times already. The DTC, they have a huge naked short in the stock. Where is it? That's what you have to ask. What happened to it? There's no trading.
Lee Wills is great. He'd like to buy 1 million GTII for a few grand. Just you have to put out the order. I don't think it'll go off, but just put out the order.
Yeah, my friend's been standing there for a couple of days already. Nothing.
I think you have to guess where the ask is.
That's exactly. Don't listen. Here's my opinion on it. The company's in the middle of this mess, right? The Richard and the big shareholders are trying to get management to change. I personally would rather buy it at 50 cents because I know everything's in place and it's going the right direction than trying to pick it off down here. That's how I feel. You want to pick it off here? Knock yourself out. You'll get a big reward when everything turns around. That's what happens.
Can they cover in the expert market yet?
No.
Yeah, they're not doing
No.
it in the market. They're just doing it behind a screen. It's the same stuff they're doing. The expert market is just there to give cover to a judge or the other side when you're at court saying, hey, Your Honor, we're closing it at the best of, there's a term for it. I'm not a lawyer, but we got the best available price, or we got the fairest price in the investor's interest. There's a legal term for it. That's why they call it the expert market. They're just stealing from you, and the market is in on it with them. No one's on your side except for Ham.
I'm not on your side. I don't give a shit anymore. 79 days, I'm gone. I never want to see this again. I put 24 years in trying to expose this and help everybody out. I've been attacked by many people. I'm still standing here. I do not listen to anyone who doesn't understand what they're saying. If you say something stupid, I'm going to come right back at you. I've been doing this a long, long, long time. It's unfortunate, but that's what I've been doing.
What do you think's going on? I didn't look. DJT today. I guess it went up. I don't know. Let me look.
No, it was down. That's what I said before. You got to be crazy to even be around the name.
Well, it was up in the pre-market, but it's down now.
It was up. Like they pushed it straight down.
It's not doing. I thought it
There's
might be
no
up
trade.
today.
Listen, there's no volatility in it. All of a sudden, it stopped. Right? It's just standing here. It's been here for 5 hours now. 34.
You're just watching
34,
democracy
60,
in action.
35. It's
Wait.
doing nothing. This is the worst market in the world.
You just have to wait
South
until they're
Korea
done
was
with
good.
democracy. Then we'll see what the market does.
Right. GameStop is picking its ugly head up. They tried to hold it. Think about GameStop, people. It was $29.79 2 days before option expiration. They wiped out the 30s that everyone was talking about. I know it was like 100,000 of them traded at $1 something to zero. The 29s, the 28s, the 27s, the 26s, and the 25 calls all wiped out. That easy. But no selling, just manipulation.
Jewelry Affairs says GTII is just killing us. I guess patience and faith. It isn't killing us. It killed us. It's over. We have to get them to finish the last chapter, and they're working on it now. Richard Hoffman, the guys from Trento Mine with Ham's generous and active help are getting ready to make that into the second chapter, the new chapter. And some of the guys are on this
Listen, I
chain.
work,
So
I take calls on these things. I help them out, I introduce them, I do everything I
yeah, he
can.
does it all for free. So it's, you know,
I don't even want anything to do.
I know
with it.
he
I'm trying
wants
to help them
nothing to
out.
do with it. So guys like me who think they can do something, you just, you know,
I'm
he
not a
doesn't want
mining
anything to
guy.
do with it. But anyway,
I'm
he's
not a mining guy.
he's not a mining guy, but he'll help. He will help the two real estate guys out of New York to create a big mining company in GTII if they can. But Jewelry Affairs, the last chapter, complete wipeout, round trip, it killed us. Now what you're hoping for Jewelry Affairs, 3 scenarios. One, the company's management sits down with Richard Hoffman and the 2 real estate guys from New York. They negotiate, why don't we get out of this mess, and we'll give each other releases. You can keep those shares. We want these shares back. You can keep that Rolls Royce, but we want that house back. Whatever they negotiate. Then they can come out.
Leave it to the court.
That's outside of a court. They can come out with a new GTII. These 2 real estate guys can then cause this to squeeze. It maybe they have a whole strategy. The second way is it goes through receivership or through bankruptcy. The second way is somehow there's a hybrid, just like with Bed Bath and Beyond, that the judge allows the equity to participate in the upside. I think it's unlikely, but it could happen. The final way, it's complete washout. Then you stick with the guys from Trento Mines. They will find a shell. Ham will introduce them to money. Ham will introduce them to the shell, and you pile in on that shell. There are ways out, but it did kill us. It did kill us. It's done. Stop talking about GTII. Stop obsessing about it. It's over. They won. They won. All right, I'm done with my comment.
Again, I need to see what happens in the court before I give those words. I don't believe that it's over. I have to speak with the court.
It is over from a trading standpoint.
Oh, it is.
There are 2 ways. I gave you 2 ways where it might still be alive. He's right. But stop obsessing about it. It's done.
The SEC has allowed the criminals to flood the market with so many counterfeit shares. The weight of the shares collapsed the stock. Shame on the SEC for allowing that. We busted them. We showed you the criminals. They're all here. The
Yeah,
problem
that's
is
true.
The management needed to put a deal in here. They've had 2.5 years to do it, and they have not completed a transaction. So the big shareholders are trying to throw them out. That's it. Let them throw it out. Put something in here. They clean up whatever they have to do to get back listed on exchange. They all know the shorts here, and they know the potential for stock squeeze. So let them do what they have to do. We can't talk about it because we're not part of it. There's nothing to say.
The Ham is correct. It used to be what a CEO would do, would use their shares as currency and go buy companies. But they made it very difficult. The shorts did, and Congress and the SEC. I give credit to the management and the people working closely with GTII for 2.5 years. They did everything they could. And
then the government just let them down.
There's no enforcement. If there had been a modicum of enforcement of settlement, GTII would have made some acquisitions, I'm not ready just to blame management. This is a failure of the regulators, Congress, and your broker dealers. It's called failure to receive. They don't settle the trades, your own broker dealers. So anyway, but I can come on here now live with him for the next 3 months, and we can talk about GTII every single day. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the time. What is worth the time is talking. You heard Ham talk about DJT, talking about Finger, talking about things that still are
I
alive.
can't trade. I don't have the capital to trade all these names. I don't. But that doesn't mean I can't look at things,
Right.
right? I'm married, but I look at other girls. What am I supposed to say? You can look.
You look at other girls?
Once in a while.
KYP says she's going to kick your butt on the court.
She caught me shy. KYP, I showed William a video yesterday of me smashing the ball. You don't want to stand in front of that bad boy.
Actually, I think you guys should just skip the competition and become doubles partners.
That's what I need a doubles partner.
I don't want you to hurt KYP with one of your blistering missiles.
Anyway, listen, people, relax. Let Richard Hoffman. When Richard Hoffman says, hey, guys, we did all we can, the patient is dead, then we can just say the patient is dead.
All right,
But-
so FLAM3, who I think's a shill, after that rant, I'm completely out. Lost a lot of money following this nut and Lou. Okay, bye.
That's exactly who he followed, Lou.
Bye.
Because he was following us. If that gentleman was following us, we were here when the stock was 30 cents, 40 cents, 60 cents, $1, $2, $3, and $4. It went to 9 thanks to Lou exciting a riot over this thing, who I never even met or spoke to before. And Lou passed away. Sorry to hear that. But Lou brought a whole bunch of people who we have no idea, uneducated, ran into a fire. Actually, have a friend of mine that I was talking about finger motion, and his wife bought GTII. I never spoke to anybody in his family about it. And they got it from Lou.
Well,
And I have nothing. I'm just saying that when you talk about a stock, you better be educated about it. On finger motion, I'm super educated on it. In GTII, I was super educated on it until Lou made this whole nonsense, whatever the hell he was talking about. And he created this wild, crazy panic, everybody running into it as though the shorts were covering. We kept saying it. They can't hold it up here. What's going on? We were saying this stuff. The government needs to force settlement. What happens? The short sellers committed fraud and just kept selling with no money. They were free riding. Just what I would love to do. I would love to go out right now and buy 1 million shares of finger motion and not pay for the trade. I would do.
all right, I want to stop talking about GTII. If any of you guys want to leave me and you think that I'm a nut and I'm a loser,
Right,
I don't want to talk about GTII anymore.
That's it.
I don't
Wait
want to
for
talk
Richard
about it.
Hoffman. What don't they understand, Richard Hoffman?
Richard Hoffman is a lawyer. That means you're in court. That means it's no longer a trade. It's court. And if you want to anyway, I just don't want to repeat myself
That's
anymore.
it.
I don't want to repeat
Listen,
myself anymore.
I am doing the
It's
opposite.
wasted energy at this point. I did believe in GTII because when Ham called with me in the first instance, I saw it run several times, and the shorts were trapped, and the company was doing things to catch out the shorts. The shorts with their allies, the SEC and FINRA and et cetera, overwhelmed us. And you're going to say, well, you should have known that. Well, I don't know. Should I have known it? Maybe. Did you know it in GME and AMC? I don't know. I used to think that there would be enforcement of stock settlement. I don't think there is
That's exactly
anymore.
right.
I don't think there is.
Listen, forget GME. GME was just a once in a lifetime, and AMC was once in a lifetime. I watched Kodak squeeze to 60, and it hasn't had another attempt. It went to 12, I think, or $12, and it's been smothered since. I watched Wolf just be smothered, Riot smothered. I watched Peloton smothered. Peloton was the hottest thing in the world, smothered. Beyond Meat's the hottest thing in the world, smothered. They do it all the time. How does the government have the rules slanted one way versus the other way? And people that talk about the stock, we're fighting to end it so it goes away. That's what we're doing.
I'm not.
I can't help it. I'm not your broker. if you want me to help you out trading money, then you got to pay me for it, and I'll be glad to help you out. But
And he can do it. He can trade. That's for sure.
I don't want to do it. I want to go. This is it. I got 79 trading days to go. I'm passing the reins. Once Trump wins, Pat Byrne is in control, and my whole life is going to be on Pat Byrne closing out the shorts. I will have my whole finger motion booklet in his hands so he can understand it. So when he does speak with them, we are going to be a case study for them. That's it. That's what I'm preparing.
Okay,
That's
so
my
we've
Bible.
spent half an hour or more on GTII, which is going nowhere. And Ham has told you that Finger, the CEO, is going to be talking to everybody in 2 days. I think it is 3 days, the 25th. That's what the shorts are really scared of. The reason they're getting you thinking and back into GTII, and I'm not trying to dismiss real pain and real hurt, is they want you to dismiss Ham, dismiss me, because they're about to lose their shirts and Finger, in my opinion. But the shorts are shirts. But anyway, I don't know, Ham. I'm on the verge of shutting down the whole computer because I really don't want to talk about GTII.
There's nothing to talk, don't talk about it. You get the questions. I'm just sitting here. I told you, Richard at GTI, Richard Hoffman. Get back to me after he speaks. That's all. There's nothing to say.
So the irony is, this is actually a good question, Jim Hegelstaller. The irony is I have large capital gains write-off to offset my capital gains received. He's talking about his losses. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all right, Christian. You know what, guys? I'm not sure I'm helping anybody, and they want me to quit because they want you to lose your money in Finger.
Stop addressing it. Just blank the question out. Next. That's all. If they have a question
Hey,
about
Lou, Christian tells you Lou was right. He was right on the healthcare company, RNVA. He was right on COSM. He was right on GTII. He was right. There was another stock that he recommended. Lou was right. Unfortunately, he's dead now. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. I just don't think I'm going to do it anymore.
Shut it down. Have a good day, and I'll speak to you privately. We don't need to do this anymore. We got 79 trading days. You want to follow me on Twitter? Follow me on Twitter. That's it. I'm just going to post the same shit out there every day until Richard tells me something different. I follow different other names. I'm not a hedge fund. I'm not playing all these names. I'm just trying to help people out. Kodak has 1 billion shares short. Wolf has 1 billion shares short. I'm sure DJT's getting up there. Rumble, all these stocks. Finger Motion doesn't have 1 billion. They have 230 million. And someone said, well, they're giving out a dividend. I said, well, it's going to make it worse. Well, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, then it doesn't make a difference. If you don't believe that this is going to work and we're not going to expose these guys and Pat Byrne, Devin Nunes, Donald Trump. See, we got these people on our side now. We don't have Lou. We traded Lou in. Lou's dead for Donald Trump. And you know what, something? I'll go with Donald Trump and Patrick Byrne and Devin Nunes. And you know what? I'm grateful that we finally went up the ladder. We got real deal people here. We don't have real deal people. We got the most powerful man in the world, including Elon Musk is on our side. So I'm going to stick to what I know. And I'm telling you, 24 years of doing this, we got the right people behind us. William, shut your computer off. We'll talk privately. And you know what? Let's move on to your next.
KYP wants you to contact her privately if you can.
I will contact her. She wants to see if I really have a backhand. I know. I'm going to send it to her.
Yeah, she wants to talk to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, William. Let's turn it off. Go have a good day. Go enjoy yourself, and I'll speak to you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Call ended.
Okay, guys. Half of these people, I have no idea, but what bashers do is they come on, they pretend to be real people. They pretend to be reasonable, and then they try to attack, call me the messenger, so you don't listen. Let me be clear. The trade we were in GTII is completely over. It's finished. It's an expirat. There's 3 ways ahead. One is that the Trento guy who is working hard, he's on his way to British Columbia. Then he's going to go to LA. He's going to sit down with Richard Hoffman. He's going to bring his team, and they're going to sit and say, do you think rather than destroying each other in court, we could sit down, find out what Reichman wants, see if we can make a deal. We don't love it. He doesn't love it, but wash our hands and we get going. They take over the company and they bring in assets, and they use Richard Hoffman to make sure everything's kosher. And I didn't mean that in any, just that's a term. Everything is correct. That's one way. But what's blocking that way, I don't know if Reichman wants to do that. I know the shorts don't want that to happen. And you still have the guy that represents the shorts, in my judgment, running the whole thing now. So anyway, that's one way. I give that, let's put odds on it, 30%. It could go up much higher. It could go as high as Kamala Harris's odds now. It could jump overnight. But I think we'll know that 2 weeks from now. So option number 1, you'll know about in 2 weeks, maybe. I don't hold out a lot of hope. I give it a 30% odds of that being the way it works. The second is the company is going to go through some kind of receivership. That's 100%. That's happening right now. But that under that second way, there may be a way that the court allows GTII to come out, keep its massive short position, keep its shareholder base, equity, you'll be at a penny or something, or a hay penny as you come out of receivership, but at least the corpus is there. The body exists. Then Ham will introduce these guys to the money, the whales. He will bring in every contact that's possible. They will bring in their deal flow, and they'll make it happen. 100%, the second option of being in receivership is occurring. Odds of it, of share of the judge allowing a large short position to remain and the cap table to remain as is. I would give it 25% odds that happens, but I'm not a lawyer. The third thing is the company's legal troubles could turn into a bankruptcy. This is good for creditors. In a bankruptcy, the judge's responsibility is to the debtors. The debtors. The creditors. It is to debt. The judge is responsible to look out for the creditors of the company. From the janitor to any debt that Kramer has on the company. I don't think he has any. But it's possible in a bankruptcy court that the judge will allow some survivability for equity. It's possible. I give that 5%. So your best your best escape. I'm in the stock. Your best escape is the salesmanship and the hard work of people you're not paying, you're not helping, but they're putting it on their shoulders to do it. And the grace that you have is you have an archangel in Richard Hoffman. You have a guy named after an angel, and you have whales all working on your behalf. They see an opportunity financially, sure. And maybe they're doing it for themselves. I'm not talking about Richard. I'm talking about the whales. But your interests are aligned. But if you keep asking me and you keep hanging around my neck the albatross that GTII is at a penny, it's not at a penny. I doubt you can buy it at a penny. I doubt you can sell it at a penny. And this isn't a rant. Call it a rant. I really don't care. I really don't care. For 2 years, GTII was in a position in the market to test whether or not there could be a short squeeze. There were people working very closely with the company to make it happen. I think the CEO's personality and arrogance didn't do him any service and didn't do you any service. A year ago, I was asked to be CEO. Not because I'm anybody special. I just think they could trust. They needed somebody they could trust. I said, okay, it's not going to be me. I may put my name in, but it's not going to be me. I've informed the people involved that I'm stepping away. But I may still decide to put my name in for CEO. I don't know. But if you guys coming on want to focus on GTII at a penny, it's a complete waste of time. GTII is not going up. And I think I've been saying that in a less rant, as this guy calls it, or a less forceful way. I think I've been saying that for over a year, about a year. GTI is not going up. There's no buddy on Wall Street. There's no institution. There's no whale. There's no investor. There's no country. There's no central bank. There's nobody that's going to come in and buy the stock as long as it's in court. It's just a fact. Court is different than the stock market. I've said this. I've gotten in arguments here. I've been wrong a couple times. I think I don't know if I was wrong, but I listened and I heard what the other side was saying. But when companies like Bed Bath & Beyond go into bankruptcy, or there were a couple of others, everyone's all, it hurts. They're all excited that there's going to be a trade. There's no trade for equity in bankruptcy. There's no trade for equity in bankruptcy. Anytime the stock price goes up, they're going to come short it down. The day traders, these guys that come on here and say that I'm ranting and, oh, what about GTII? I invested all my money. What about the dividend? What good is a dividend if I can't spend it? They're here because they've taken a short position, whether it's for 1 day, 1 week, a year, or they're being paid by the shorts. They need the stock to stay down, get lower, and then they can cover and they can go celebrate. And as they say on Twitter, I wish I had taken a picture of it. Hey, we had some fun at the expense of retail today. And they giggle and laugh and they high five, but they're just breaking the law and stealing. But it's allowed. And it's time for us to admit that it's allowed. Nobody's going to save us. Congress isn't going to save us. Journalism is not going to save us. The SEC is not going to save us. Ham might be right. He knows Patrick Byrne. But I'm not as convinced about it. But it might be. But if you think about what's going on in the market, I'm the only person I've heard talking about this. A couple of people have told me I'm right. So maybe somebody else is. But this is, if you want to think I'm a nut, as this gentleman says, I'm a nut. Just stop listening to me. Go listen to the really rational, sober, roaring kitty. But if you look at what's going on in the market, you've got a group of highly educated, highly entitled men and women who went to one or two schools, got training at one or two firms, and checked their conscience at the door. And what they've done is basic money in banking 101. And then if you take more courses in it, it gets really interesting. And if you write a whatever that's called paper to get out of school on the South Sea bubble and John Law, it gets really interesting. And then you write something else for Mr. Matthews on money and banking, and it's, by the time you're done, your brain is like, I'm so glad I spent my time doing this. But when you study money and banking, banks lend out 10-1. Fact is, right now, most banks in the United States, JP Morgan looks to be in trouble. Chase might be in trouble. Schwab might be in trouble. Wells Fargo. They lend out 10-1. $1 in deposits, they lend out $10. And I've heard it's 100-1. I've heard it's worse than that. It's 100-1. But that's cash. My $100,000, once I give it to you, your wife can't tell that it was mine. All she knows is that it's yours. And if you put it in the bank, you go into Chase with 100,000, they'll put it in, they'll lend out $1 million. If you go the next day to ask for your 100 grand back, they may say, well, we need 48 hours notice, because they don't have it there anymore. But with dollar bills, there's no governance. You don't have a settlement on a dollar bill. But there used to be a thing called bank runs. You would have a run on a bank. And it got so bad in I think it was 1908, but it might have been I can't quite remember. It's not popping into my head. But before the Federal Reserve was organized, the entire financial system in the United States almost collapsed. And John Pierpont Morgan called all the bankers into his salon on a weekend, and on Sunday night he rescued the banking system, and he got others to put in money as well, and that saved our financial system. But those bank runs, like you saw in the movie It's a Good Life with the bad guy and then Jimmy Stewart, bank runs used to happen. But then we got the Fed, and then we got FDR. And he said, I welcome their hatred, talking to the banksters. I welcome their hatred. Obama was not an FDR. Everyone thought, I did, that Barack Obama was going to come in with the courage of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But Barack came in differently. So anyway, FDR put in FDIC. And then we've since gotten the savings and loan and credit unions. And then Elizabeth Warren was in charge of that thing down on 17th Street called FS. I forget what it is, some sort of commission. But people trust it. And so we haven't had bank runs. We've had some bank failures. We had the savings and loan crisis under George H.W. Bush. And what happened then? The government came in and took over the savings and loans because of a guy named James Keating. That's who they blamed it on. But then George Bush's people gave good S&Ls, good assets, good real estate to people like the Bass brothers, creating fortunes amongst their friends. And then the taxpayer, back then, it sounded like a lot of money. I remember it being a $1 trillion bailout. Doesn't sound like much money now. But so people have gotten into this belief that our banks are safe. Our banks are safe. And we haven't had a bank run. Or at least it hasn't felt that way because the federal government stepped right up and bailed out SVB. Well, that's the commercial banking system. Well, these brainiacs are looking at the US markets. They've reduced the number of brokerage firms that matter in terms of size to 4. And they have a certain amount of money under management, assets under management. The government is printing money. And almost everyone has a retirement account. Almost everyone has their IRA. Where do they go get more assets? They invent them. They invent them. So they start applying the fractional reserve banking of the commercial banks to the securities system. Now, the Federal Reserve is not federal, and it's not a reserve. It's owned by the banks, commercial banks. Well, under Barack Obama, it at the end of George W. Bush, but it got passed under Barack Obama. They completely did away with this distinction between commercial banks and investment banking. That's something that had held since the Depression. They got rid of it. So they brought in this idea of why don't we've got there's 52 million shares of Finger Motion that exist, and it's in our brokerage accounts, a little bit institutionally, but mostly in retail accounts. Why don't we turn that into, I'm making this up. I'm totally making this number up. Let's turn that into 520 million shares. And that'll increase the assets under management. And why don't we start making some protections so people don't ask for their shares all at once? One thing we will do is we'll get rid of physical shares. Secondly, we will return to all investors any physical shares they have in safekeeping, and we'll tell them they can only have their accounts held electronically. Thirdly, we'll make it expensive to come into the system. We'll make it impossible nearly to come into the system with physical shares. So it's a disincentive to ever have physical shares. Fourthly, we will pass the Merrill Lynch rule. If it's a retail account, nobody can own a share of stock in our retail accounts under $5 a share. Brokers can't recommend those shares. The thundering herd of 22,000 brokers can't recommend shares under $5. And we're going to tell our clients they have to sell them. We're going to dismantle our research departments. Why? Because when Barack Obama approved Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, buying whoever, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and UBS, and then there's other brokerage firms, but they became banks. Goldman Sachs became a bank. So they moved their trading desks, their prop desks, all their risk out. They started prime brokerage. That way, Goldman Sachs is insured by the taxpayer. It's insured by the taxpayer. Too big to fail and too rich to cause hardship to. So it taxes the American people. Well, when they moved the risk out, the proprietary the prop desks, the trading, the research, it moved to hedge funds. Those same people that used to be inside the firm went out to hedge funds. The trading operation became a prime broker, Goldman Sachs prime brokerage, and they have a stock loan desk. As Patrick Byrne so memorably says, Goldman Sachs is a stock loan desk with the name of an investment bank on top. So what did the retail side have left? Tens of thousands of brokers who convince you to put your money into managed money, into ETFs, into mutual funds, very rarely in specific stocks, and into fixed income. Lots of insurance products, the wrap product. So you've got the thundering herds out there, 40 or 50 or 60,000 brokers telling their investors to just trust us, put it in long-term investments. Well, this is leaving these clever men and women who were about to create a fractional reserve security system drooling. Well, all we got to do, we've got these big funds. Retail is funneling cash into these funds. Under Barack Obama, Helicopter Ben is just printing money, the modern monetary theory. And then under Trump, it just gets worse. He just prints money. But there was a slight difference. Trump was using the money in many cases to make money, but not in all cases. And then under Biden, it just got worse. Why does it get worse? Because in a fractional reserve banking system that's based on debt, the debt level has to keep growing. You have, every time a bank takes a deposit, they need to lend it out to grow. And then if they lend it out and it ends up in 10 more banks, they need to lend it out. It's very simplistic, I know, but that's what, in essence, is what's happening. Is growth, and this is, I studied economics. This is why I think economics is awful. But growth in any closed system kills it. Think about algae in a river, in the mouth of a river. Well, we finally outgrew this planet, and we can't keep growing with the green shade, the green light, and the shades over our head and a ledger book. We can't keep growing that way. But that's what they're trying to do. And what they're really doing right now is turning you against each other. I can't even mention certain topics without it creating massive animosity. They want that because they're convincing the government to continue borrowing money on a scale unheard of, unless it happened in any civilization that existed before the written word. I don't know, or our written word, but it's unheard of. But it makes them rich. They get to tell you, invest for the long term, trust us. Don't listen to anybody about the over-the-counter markets or the mid-sized markets. Just trust us. So they all invest in 7 stocks. And every month you get a statement and it says your account is worth this much. And you trust it. You trust the boo birds that come on here. But you have to painfully look at what they do to the stock price of these small stocks. Why did they do it? Why did they do it? Well, every stock, as Ham says, he's right. Every stock has been multiplied, from Tesla to Exxon to what's that, Shake Shack, to Lululemon. Every single stock out there, these brainiacs have done, if they've expanded the number of shares in your accounts, in the ETFs, in the managed accounts, in the mutual funds, they get to charge commission when they trade it. They get to charge interest when they loan it and create these shares out of nothing. They get to charge ongoing profit arrangements, 2% per year, 20% of any profit in a year. In other funds and ETFs, they just charge a fee. They get to charge you fees for having your account with them. And then they get to charge all sorts of fees, like cost of mailing your statement or whatever. They have a bunch of other fees. And the assets grow by magic, because it's a fractional reserve security system. Now, what do they have? They're imitating the fractional reserve banking system. What did they have to do in the banking system? They had to create the Federal Reserve. It's not federal, and it's not a reserve. It's controlled by the banks. It's owned by the banks. It's of, by, and for the banks. Well, in the securities market, they didn't really have something like that. Well, what did they come up with? They came up with the DTCC and the NSCC, whatever the NCS, whatever the hell. They came up with the DTCC. They told you can't have physical shares. So they expanded the assets under management or under security at the DTCC, one place, and they control it. Banks, Goldman, BlackRock, they control it. And as 20 or 30 years of brokers funneling your money into Larry Flink's funds or whatever his name, Black Schwartz's funds, they now have tens of trillions under management. That's a way of concentrating control, concentrating wealth, a la JP Morgan, Bank of America, some other bank in the banking system. They've done it in the security system. Concentrated power, concentrated ownership, concentrated influence. I just opened this up. Depository trust, assets, depository trust revenue, according to Wikipedia, $1.8 trillion. Their net income is almost $300 million. Their total assets, according to this, is 46 trillion. Their total equity is 2.3 trillion. Their subsidiaries are the NSCC, DTC, FISC, and a bunch of others. They have a derivatives repository established in 1973. Didn't exist before that. Just like the Federal Reserve was established, I guess on Jekyll Island, I guess it was 1912. I can't remember exactly. This was created. In 2008, that's when Reg Show happened. That's when Barack Obama happened. The Clearing Corporation and the Depository Trust announced members will benefit from netting and risk management processes and will leverage the asset servicing capabilities of DTCC's Trade Information Warehouse for credit default swaps. Anyway, it goes on and on. They entered into a joint venture with the New York Stock Exchange to combine cash and derivative positions. Anyway, I don't want to get buried in that. So while they're trying to imitate the fractional reserve system, they've come up against a couple of problems. Settlement is one of them. There's no such thing as settlement in cash. When you give cash to Chase Manhattan and they follow it on to BB&T Bank and then it ends up at Eagle Bank, there's no cash settlement. There's the risk that everybody wants their money out of the bank at the same time, but they solve that with the FDIC and the FSLIC and the credit union one and all the others and the government's full faith and credit of the government. It's all confidence game. Well, now they have a problem in the securities market. They didn't think, what about settlement? Well, you don't have to settle. It's all under DTCC. It's all under one auspices. What we need to do is make sure that Bill Clinton signs into law that derivatives are not regulated. Further, with Secretary Rubin advising Bill Clinton, we've got to convince the best salesman ever, the most Republican Democrat ever, that the best thing for the markets is to have self-regulatory organizations. Bravo, we got that done. He did more than Ronald Reagan could do. Then a lot of other things happen, but you get to the great financial crisis. George W. Bush very pithily says, this sucker is going down. But you let Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley come in to the White House, they get first crack at all the assets. That's a lot like what happened in the savings and loan crisis. George H.W. Bush's savings and loan crisis. He let his friends have the good assets. The taxpayer got the bad assets. Well, that's what happened with Goldman Sachs got the good assets. Morgan Stanley got the good assets. JP Morgan got the good assets. And the taxpayer got the shaft. But people still trust the federal government. So that was the banking system. And one of the things they did with the investment banks, as I've already said, is they allowed the investment banks to become banks. But they had to move their risk out. Well, what moved out with the risk? What moved out with the risk? You had Reg Show come in at around 2008. You had Barack Obama doing this, reorganize the banking system. And of course, Helicopter Ben is just pouring the fake money into the market. Well, what happened? I forgot my train of thought. I was talking anyway. Let me just go on to another one. So when they moved the risk out of the brokers to the prime broker to the hedge funds, they also created this clearing process, supposedly to help you, but it was all about Ken Griffin and Virtue, Citadel and Virtue, order flow, rapid trading. They changed all the rules for that. But when they moved the risk out, what else went out? Compliance officers moved over there. There's still compliance officers on the retail side, but they told their retail brokers, don't buy small stocks. Don't trade. In fact, when a client comes in with a small stock position, you got to get rid of it. There's no reason for compliance down there. And then they put the research, the powerful research over there, although brokerage firms still have some research. Now, with investment banking, what happened? It used to be you had diffuse investment bankers, small boutique banks like Alex Brown or Laidlaw or Johnston Lemon, Wheat First. You had them all over. Investment banking got concentrated. They can anoint a Zuckerberg, a Bezos, from soup to nuts. And everybody did the same thing. Small firms, because of regulation, because of the risk, and because it was onerous to keep up with the filings, went out of business. Small investment banks, same thing. Research completely gone. Unless you're Crappy Barra or white diamond with the poodle. So they set up a marketplace in the less than $1 billion stocks, roughly, where there's no buying, there's no compliance, there's no research, there's no institutions, there's no investment banking. What's the CEO going to do? Unless he's Zuckerberg or Bezos, she's left with no choices. She can't raise money in the market because there's no investment bank that can help her. She can't really raise money in the market because all of the wealth has been concentrated in 4 firms and some powerful investment entities like BlackRock. Where's she? They're not interested in a less than $5 million deal. There used to be banks that would do that. BlackRock's not interested in a $5 million deal. They can do a $5 billion deal, $500 billion deal with the same brain power. So the CEO, she has no place to go. It didn't take long for BlackRock, SAC, Citadel, Vanguard to figure out we got a ton of money under management now. Unless we gamble, we can't get these returns. What we can do, we're noticing this pattern in the small stock markets. Let's set up offshore. Let's go hire Jeff Easton. Let's go hire Aubrey Advisors. Let's go hire Kurt Kramer. We'll train them. We'll outsource it. We'll give them the lawyers they need. We'll give them the documents they need. They can go to the small companies. They can offer, like Jeff Easton did with Finger, like Jeff Easton did with Vocal twice, like Jeff Easton did with KNW, and there's others. They can go offer Finger Motion $5 million under this note, and we'll buy it from them. Now, we can't directly buy it from them, but we have our buddies here will set up a hedge fund. Polar is one that comes to mind, but because I don't know, but we know that Jeff Easton has 4 clients, hedge funds. We will invest in those funds. We'll sponsor those funds. We'll provide the money. So when Jeff Easton gives the CEO, Finger Motion, $5 million, they start shorting and shorting and shorting and shorting. Now, how can they do this? Well, they own the DTCC. They have convinced Congress to let Wall Street regulate themselves with the salesmanship of Bill Clinton. They've captured the SEC. They appoint people. Goldman Sachs had one woman serving on one of the boards at FINRA whilst she is a managing director at Goldman Sachs. So you have to get this done, we have to get control of the regulators. They've done that. They've done it on a scale that you might as well assume that the regulatory bodies are an annex to Citadel, to BlackRock, to Vanguard. They're just part of them. It's just a cost. Well, then you have this tricky thing about settlement. Well, wait a minute. We don't have to settle. Nobody's going to ask for their certificate. It's all electronic. The only persons who would enforce settlement is the SEC or FINRA, and they'll just not look at the small market. They'll just focus on the big markets and crypto. We'll keep them off that. We'll go to Ann Wagner at oversight and we'll tell her we don't want an audited trail of, the CAT, consolidated audit trail, because that violates our proprietary trading. We're such geniuses. Remember, we went to Harvard. Well, so we know regulators are not going to be interested. We know Congress we have bought. All we got to do now is make sure our clients, the retail clients, keep their money in long-term investments and they never ask a question. All we got to do is print a statement that shows they own 10,000 shares of Finger. We don't have to have real shares there because we've set it up so they can't move it to physical shares. And better yet, our prime broker can lend out our Finger Motion shares. Here at Vanguard, we've got 100,000 shares of Finger Motion. We can lend those out. Here at Goldman Sachs, we've got 500,000 shares in our clients' accounts. We can lend those out. But you know what? We'll give it a clever name. We'll hypothecate them. Mimeograph. We'll hypothecate them. No one's coming asking for them. No one can have them in physical form. No one knows. So we'll hypothecate. Let's just rehypothecate. Why don't we turn 100,000 shares at $5? That's 500,000. We can make the annual fee on that. We can charge our clients a piece of the profits. But why not turn 500,000 shares? I said 100,000 shares. Let's turn 100,000 shares into 2 billion shares. We control the government. We control the bond market. We know the government's going to keep borrowing and flood. And now our acolytes are in the Treasury Department, in the Federal Reserve, in Congress, Treasury Secretary. All we got to do is keep the United States printing trillions with a T, dollars. And as long as this flood of money's coming to the market, we just expand our assets to meet that flood of newly created money. And we can convince people like Jeremy Frommer, it's just the regulators' computers. And we're just creating stock to meet investors' demand. But that's what's going on in the US markets. It's all a con game, just like it's a con game in the banking system. That works until there's a panic on a global scale. And as long as people trust the Federal Reserve and trust the United States government, our banking system will be okay. And we'll go to war first before we allow that trust to disappear. But now you come back to the securities market. Well, in the big stocks, like an Exxon or a Tesla, you have Vanguard counterfeiting shares or Citadel counterfeiting shares via offshore accounts and through hedge funds and fronts. But you also have longs. You have the California Retirement Pension Plan, and others who do their own research. Now they're not caught on yet that there's no settlement, but they do make an analysis of the fundamentals, and they buy in size. So the shorts have a hard time driving those shares downward because there's natural buying. There's trading desks at these big retirement accounts and at other hedge funds. But the shorts are always ready for a panic. Always ready for a panic. So where did these big funds get their outsized returns? Where does a fund like Vanguard or a fund like BlackRock, $10 trillion. I looked it up. They get 14% on average across $10 trillion. That means they have to make $1.4 trillion a year in and year out. How do they do that? They sponsor offshore funds to come in, and when Jeff Easton gets finger motion to sign up for a $5 million deal, it's a hedge fund either controlled by or owned by whomever, Vanguard, that is shorting that stock. And I believe that in the case of finger motion, they have shorted 200 million shares. I saw 100 million happen right in front of my eyes for 10 days. Now, there's apologists out there that used to work for the American Stock Exchange who will tell you, no, there's systems in place. FINRA only reports that the trade was done with non-located shares, but FINRA doesn't report when they settle it up. I say hogwash. Hogwash. But that's the other side of the argument. But anyway, so let's use Ham's number, 250 million shares counterfeited in finger. There's 50 million that exist. So instead of earning money on 50 million shares, Wall Street in general, they're earning money now on 300 million shares. Now, Wall Street knows this is happening. So they don't come in as buyers because they know that their other hand is the one shorting all of this. Now, companies like MMAT, MULN, HPIL, I always remember the same ones, but there's many, many more. Vocal, they go ahead, they do it once, fool me once, they go again, fool me twice, fool me thrice, fool me twice. And it allows Vanguard through vehicles to drive that price. It doesn't matter what the company does. They get outlandish returns. I think in the case of Collective Audience, Aubrey's clients, Aubrey Advisors clients, and I don't think a CEO should ever do business with Aubrey Advisors. Everything on this video is, in my opinion, in my judgment, and it's editorial. But I think they took $150 million out of the market in 2 days. It took a year to set up the sting, but they got it. Well, to my memory, Polar is an $8 billion fund. $150 million is a meaningful rate of return on $8 billion when it happened in 2 weeks. But then they've got to protect it. They've got to protect it. They hire the boo birds that come on here to tell you I'm crazy, that I'm ranting, and I do sometimes. I help them out. But they're here to day trade to help the process. But what's the number one thing they do? They buy the lobbyists. They buy the professors. They buy the journalists. BlackRock owns journalism in this country. They buy Congress, and they buy the broker-dealers because it is all the commission business the broker-dealer gets. The entire system is rigged against you and me. There is no settlement, and there will not be any settlement. Now, in the case of finger motion, you've got a CEO that maybe wouldn't come out and describe it the way I have, because he's a gentleman and he doesn't rant and he's not a kook and he's not a I can't think of the other words they've called me. But you've got a CEO who took the money, and I actually think outsmarted the shorts, because he used, and his whole team, it's not just the CEO, they used that money to go increase the business in China of buying discounted minutes. They built trust. They worked slowly, carefully. They bided their time, and then they paid it back. They hired Wes Christian, and I've sat with the CEO of Finger Motion, and I can tell you straight up that he told me that he's not taking money from Jeff Easton or Wall Street again in this the traps that Wall Street sets up. So Finger Motion, I think, is a stock that can break out. But I'm here to tell you, and I differ from him. I don't think there's ever going to be a short squeeze in our lifetime that we're going to know about in advance. Short squeezes are out of the blue surprises. Which, by the way, if GTII, if the Archangel can meet with Richard Hoffman and they can talk to the other side through lawyers, cha-ching, 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 and say, look, we want to get out of this legal morass. We know you're a crook, but we're willing to let you go. I know you want a legacy. We're willing to give you one, but we want a clean company. And the Archangel can bring in overnight, can bring in assets galore. Richard can make sure that it's kosher. And again, I'm not the English language. He can make sure it's correct. And you can scare the crap out of the shorts. But you've got to stop believing the system is there to protect you. The system is an industrial scale fleecing process designed to lull you to sleep, that they manage your money better than you can, which is crap. Trust us with our fees. And then the same people that are managing your money are the ones sponsoring the theft of your money in the small cap markets. And the CEOs do it over and over and over and over and over again, partly because they have no option, partly because they don't know how to do it. In the case of GTII, Ham will set these guys up with the money. In the case of Finger, it was a little harder. But Finger did the work. They found money in Southeast Asia and in China. They did private placements. Now, there's guys that used to work at the American Stock Exchange that poo-poo that, oh, they were expensive. But guess what? Some deals have to be expensive if you're trying to avoid the maw of your own financial firms. Nobody is going to rescue you. Nobody. MMTLP has no value, but you listen to people that tell you it does. Why are they telling you that? Because they're getting paid to tell you that. Or they're getting paid if you wait so long that the stock, that your rights expire. I don't know. Kickbacks. But the simple fact in black and white is that MMTLP expired, I think, on December 13th. Move it to Nextbridge. But guess what? Even with Nextbridge, Wall Street, the criminals, and I'm not saying all of Wall Street's in on this. This is a select group of thinkers and greed. They're already trying to convince Greg McCabe that through this guy, Johnny Tobacco, who I don't know, but I don't trust. Just like I don't trust the guy that came into GTII from the hedge fund. Look, and again, it may not be Johnny Tobacco could just be a tool, and he doesn't know what he's doing. But I think if they get a token going or Bitcoin going in Nextbridge is going to start trading, and I've heard that it already is, on offshore exchanges in multiples of what the real shares are. So it won't matter what Greg McCabe finds in the ground, because it'll be so diluted in the real shares sold that the stock price can't get up off the ground. They've bought professors at Georgetown. Many of the lawsuits, people are running out of money. They went after the CEOs, not after the criminals, going after the CEOs. The ones that were the victims. But that is because the SEC works with BlackRock, Vanguard, Goldman Sachs, and Citadel, and all the rest of them. The SEC is here to put the patina of law and order on the greatest crime that's happening ever in history, a financial crime. These few men, these lucky few, and one woman I know of, I think a woman owns Fidelity, I don't know, but the woman, Blythe Masters, but it's mostly men otherwise, are taking money out of the market in the trillions of the dollars. The head of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, is selling. Bezos is selling. Fruchterberg is selling. They're all selling. But at the same time, they're taking the money out in fees and in the 2% and in the 20% and the 40% and the rigged markets. And they're creating returns in their funds by stealing from you in the back end without regulation, so they can make money, and their lawyers charge $5,000 an hour and their shit doesn't stink. No one's going to help you. No one. Now, there's brave people working very hard in I'm not going to go through all the names. You know all of them. I say them all the time. And there's people like him that try to give you ideas on how you can trade and make a little bit of money. I got involved with Finger First, and I made money at First and Finger. Last year was brutal because, like an idiot, I went and got interviewed. Ham was calling me, girls are calling me, a guy's calling me. Other people that Ham called to have call me, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? So I went and spent 6 hours of the trading day, 6.5 hours of the trading day on options expiry with them. and I lost a shitload because I made an assumption that I should be okay. At the end of the day, I wasn't. So that's on me. But
Call from ended.
GTII then came. Both worked. Both worked.
Call from
And
ended.
I really believed that we could have short squeezes. I no longer believe that. I think Wall Street has it all under control. Now, let me give you a caveat. Both in GTII and in finger motion. GTII, you got to do the slip slide. You got to do the dodge and weave. You got to allow a little time to go by. But if you want to torture me every day on GTII, if you want to torture yourself on GTII every day, that's your choice. That's your choice. I think in your head, and I own GTII. It makes me mad. But what good does it do me to every day bitch and moan about it? Or go on websites and ridicule, poke fun, spread negativity, spread lies, and blame others. What it doesn't do any good. Even if I'm right to blame others, it doesn't do any good. The idea is to try to make money. The only benefit I see in GTII now is taking a loss that I can use against gains if I ever have them again in my life. But even that, I'm precluded from doing. So do I want to obsess about it every day? Get on here, blame Ham, blame William. Tell William he's a nut, he's a kook, he's an idiot. What's your best trading idea? Yeah, that's one way. That's one way. Or I can realize that these stocks are high risk, high volatility. They don't all work. And let me ask you this. I did it once in my life on the way out of a casino. How many times when you go up to the game of roulette, do you put all your money on one number? How many times do you do that? You look at it, you put it on the red or the black, because that's half the numbers. You go down and you put it on the odd or the even, because that's half the numbers. Or you put it on a series, because that's a third of the numbers. How often do you put all your money on one number? I don't think you do it very often. I'm not a gambler, but I was in one of those casinos out in Baltimore with a friend, and it was anyway, it's kind of fun. I don't remember what we did it, but on the way out, I put all my money on red 32 and I won. So I did it once. But in these stocks, you got to buy more than one. You can't put everything into just one. And it shouldn't be all your money either. It should not be all your money. And you know that. You know that. These boo birds come on just to make it look. And by the way, Ham is correct in many ways. People ascribe to me that somehow I said things and made recommendations that others did. But having said that, I want to be clear. I truly believed that we could have a squeeze and finger motion. I truly believed that we had caught out GTII. But a year ago, when they asked me, they said, would you be willing to be CEO? It occurred to me, wait a minute. The whales and the CEO, they're not working in concert anymore. I started telling you. I mean, the only other thing I could have done is just come right out and say sell. But that would have been wrong, because in retrospect, it's correct. But at any point in time, the whales might have won. I happen to know the whales were working aggressively to make something happen. They didn't ask me to be CEO because they weren't doing anything. But this guy came from the hedge fund, and I think he was extraordinarily effective just after. And by the way, when I say that Lou and Benedetto and Fliakos stopped the short squeeze, I believe that. But it doesn't mean that they did it on purpose. But the criminals knew what they were doing. They might have been enticing in some way, but people on Wall Street get paid. But it's an ongoing effort by your very own funds on Wall Street to fleece you in these small trades. Now, why do people invest in these stocks? Because they see the outsized return. Why do you come on here and tell me that Roaring Kitty is the greatest thing since sliced bread? Because you believe that you're going to make all this money with him and that he's made all this money. So people are in these stocks to make money. I'm going to try to wind this particular train of thought down very quickly by telling you that I think the rules and regulations are written in a way that there's always a way out for the criminals. Pedro Philly said that they short without fear. I think that's because they have the regulators on their side. And there's the revolving door when a young brainiac comes from Yale and works at SEC. She's only there for 2 years. And then she gets a job at Gibson Dunn. And it's just, she wouldn't know. She wouldn't have the experience to know that she's being misled. She's doing a good job. Institutionally, they go after CEOs. She doesn't know what's really going on. So anyway, they have the rules and regulations on their side. They have the oversight on their side. They have journalism on their side. They have your broker dealers on their side. They have the DTCC and the big banks on their side. They have the prime brokers on their side. They have these huge, well-funded legal firms on their side. They have, just by the preponderance of firepower, they end up having overwhelmed judges go along with them, and they have lobbyists on their side. They have the very journalism that we all turn to on their side. So the whole thing, they have human nature on their side. Everything's working against us. The one thing, the reason they're on these here coming after me sometimes is there are day traders that recognize this. So they just want to day trade. But they also want to prevent the surprise that could topple a stock. In the case of GME and AMC, maybe it was COVID money. I think it was institutional money. But in the case of finger motion, they want you not to see how big the things that are coming. And I encourage you to tune into Martin Shen's Q&A. You just have to register for it on the 25th. I think they won for the time being in GTII, but why are they fighting so hard? Why did they put this guy with derivatives experience in there? Because they really were caught out. Why did they get those 3 guys to move the money to COSM, tell you that COSM was going to squeeze, and then they got 35 million over to COSM? Well, I think it was in trouble. But on the other hand, as KYP pointed out, people who listened to Lou to get out of GTII when it was 3 and 4, Lou was right. Lou was right. Of course, Lou was saying go into COSM, and I think people who followed both might have been hurt. But there was a trade there, and she's absolutely right. Lou was good. I think Lou really had an ability to process trends and information and see where a trade could be. I also think he had access to information. That's my guess, which is why I bought MVRNA or whatever it was. Turns out I got suckered on that too. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it there to tell you that this market is completely rigged. You have to trade. If the stocks go up, you have to take money off the table and just let the rest ride. However, in a surprise, these stocks can squeeze. And I believed Finger was going to go squeeze. I was really skeptical in GTII, but I came to believe that could go. I actually thought Jeremy was a rational guy and could make something happen at CRTD. Turns out brains don't override human emotion and the desire to believe the lies you're being told by somebody that seems to be just like you. Jeff Easton is a particularly good liar, in my opinion. Everything's in my opinion. Anyway, I'm going to leave that part on it. I'll go to some of your questions. But if you're trading in these stocks and you're blaming Ham or you're blaming me, I guess that's fine. I think Ham did his darndest, and I tried to also. But I can't control CEO decisions. I can't control other advisors and people moving and trading. And I try to show you charts, and I want to show you this one. But you know that when you bought GTI at 5 and it goes to 3 or 2, you know in your heart that maybe I shouldn't ride it all the way down, Lord. Ride me down easy, Lord, ride me on down. You know, maybe I should take a little of this and put it in another trade. Anyway, all right, I'm going to stop there. I do apologize when I get upset with these guys. They make fun of me for ranting. Well, I lost money. I'm like Bill Clinton. I feel the pain of people losing money. And they prey on that. But it's your government, it's your regulators, it's your brokerage firms. If your broker dealer demanded receipt of the shares you paid for, we wouldn't be sitting here. And then CEOs could go raise money legitimately. CEOs could use their shares to acquire assets and talent. But they've set it up. Anyway, there's still ways to make money. I don't think it's hopeless. We just have to use the dynamics that they've put in place to try to make money. And I think we have to get out of our head that we're diamond hands and that we're holding on for a squeeze. And we have to work as a team. I think that's something that Lou saw, that we can all work as a team. And I think these guys, I'm amazed at how much of a team is out there in MMTLP, in GTII, in Finger, and in other stories. I wish I could tell who's real and who's not here, because sometimes I get upset at what I think is a fake person. Turns out it's a real person. But the fake people here, the fraudsters, the liars, the devils, are here to make you think that you shouldn't listen to me. And I'll tell you straight up, maybe I'm not your cup of tea, and maybe you shouldn't be trading these stocks. Maybe you shouldn't listen to me. But their goal is to make it, don't listen, don't listen. And we can keep working, we can keep, and they'll bring up other stocks and et cetera. And they've done their best, and I've found it embarrassing, actually. They've done their best to bring up personal things that happened to me that anyway, I don't want to talk about it. And it's not easy, but I've addressed those, I think. And then they make other allegations. And I do wonder, why am I doing this? I think partly it's because I'm trying to help. And I am trying to fight. But maybe I should write a book instead. Or I don't know. Marry a Democrat. Maybe that's what I got to do. I don't know. And to the guy that I promised never to joke when Ham's on the line, I apologize. I made a joke. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. It should be serious every time Ham's on. So anyway, I'm gonna go through your questions. Actually, I'm not. I want to quickly show you on the Van Eck Junior Gold Miners Trust, Van Eck. This, I just read it to you. And I'll read his thesis again. His thesis is that all currencies and financial asset prices are in a long-term bear market vis-a-vis gold. And then he tells you, this is 4 years ago, he tells you that it might be early, but these prices are down. It's a good time to buy. He says, listen to this, it's crazy. This is 4 years ago. The total market value of the 25 largest automakers worldwide is 1.1 trillion, not including Tesla. At the time he wrote this, Tesla was $500 million. He was totally wrong. Tesla's worth $1 trillion now. But his theory's right, maybe. I like Tesla. I like Musk. I don't think it's the cars that are going to make Tesla go up. But anyway, one thing he said here, which is what I'm emphasizing. This chart above, this chart, which is going down, you see it going down? He says, this is 4 years ago. This Van Eck Junior Gold Miners ETF chart above, I just showed it to you, tells me that you still have time to get into gold miners. If anything, there might be some volatility downside, but these short-term trends, the short-term trends tend to overshoot. In other words, you see more to the downside than you expect before they correct. And that's what you should be looking for. Sounds like finger to me. That's what you should be looking for. A chance to buy gold and gold stocks lower in the short term. Miners, buy gold miners. Most people do the opposite. They buy high and they sell low. That's a cognitive bias. only acting after the events have confirmed your thinking. And that's the guy yesterday. Only talk about what you're sure of, what you know, not what you're unsure of. Well, the whole thing about investing is trying to make a prediction based on your thesis. And if your prediction proves wrong, you check your thesis. If you still think your thesis is right, maybe you buy more. If you think your thesis is wrong, change your thesis. But there's no guaranteed way of doing that. So you have to train yourself to do the opposite. You have to train yourself to think in the opposite way. It's one of the hardest things an investor can do. But anyway, what I want to call your attention to, he was recommending the Van Eck Gold Miners Trust. I don't know if you can see that, but it was as high as $65. And when he made this recommendation, it was $50 to $55. Well, while you were listening to him, I pulled it up. Do you see this green line here? That's when he made the recommendation. Well, right about here, somewhere in here. And he was wrong for all these years. And boom, wrong. And there's a recovery. And guess what? The Van Eck Gold Miners Trust is still below what he recommended with such urgency, and I think correctly, 4 years ago. I don't see that makes him a bad analyst. I think it means we still have a chance to buy gold miners. Now, I drew this broad line of resistance and this broad uptrend line. And one thing, and then I drew a more specific one in pencil here. But what I see in the Van Eck Junior Gold Miners ETF is that it's broken out. It broke out with a pow, and then it pulled back and tested this long time resistance, which becomes support. It rallied, it pulled back again, it rallied, and now it's in a little bit of a pullback. But I think regardless of who wins the election, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama are the most likely. But maybe somehow Trump can win. But whoever wins, we're going to be at war. We're going to be printing money. And I think Bitcoin, I think the reason that gold has been in a sideways to downward trend is that for the first time in history, gold had a competitor. It was Bitcoin and all the other coins. But gold is pretty constant in the world. This is another book which I had read many times and studied, and I've quoted it to you before, and it's one of the reasons that I invested in this small mining company that I've told you guys about, and another one and a third one, but I should have probably done Bitcoin instead. But it doesn't mean that gold is not going to have its day. It doesn't mean that gold doesn't serve its purpose. It can do it with Bitcoin. But I don't think you can see this chart. But this was written by Dr. Lieb in copyrighted in 2021, so about the same time as this other gentleman. But he recommended mining ETFs to participate in the gold and silver rally by miners, And the 4 mining ETFs that he recommends are the VanEck gold miners and the VanEck junior gold miners. So it's GDX and DGXJ. DGXJ. He also has the Global X, the iShares, and then the Sprott Gold Miners ETF. All right. So GDX, which is the large gold miners, tracks at this time 4 years ago, tracks 45 gold stocks, including the major miners. That's the major one. Because it's weighted according to capitalization, the biggest miners count the most. The 3 biggest are Newmont Gold Corp, Barrick, and Franco-Nevada. Now, I want to just point something out to you. I don't know if I have. This, I can't show you the names out. I can have the company send you information. But this gold mining company, which is seeking money at an extraordinarily cheap valuation, and has already received commitments for half of it, maybe the whole thing, but definitely for half of it. I can't show you any of this. But anyway, can I read any of it to you? There's another thing I did read to you before. This isn't the one. This is more specific. But anyway, this gold company, which many of you have received information on, and I'm an investor in, it's in Nevada, and it is an invisible gold mining company, Nano Gold, and it may have as much as 100 million ounces in reserves. What they have as third party right now is 6 million ounces. But they've done all the testing they can do. They're just going to build out the pilot plant and produce gold. That means there's still some risk. There's many a slip between cup and lip, but they're at the finish line. They're right there. Well, what they are is nano gold with it's refractory gold. But what I want to point out to you, the three biggest companies here are Nevada companies. I don't know as much about Franco-Nevada, but I do know Newmont Gold Corp and Barrick, but I think also Franco-Nevada. But Newmont and Barrick have a joint company they call Gold Strike. They go after invisible gold, and they take the huge sand volumes, and they put them in it. They process it, but they leach and they grind, and they put a borax or something in with it. Anyway, I've seen the process done, but I'm not a engineer. But anyway, they put them in these huge autoclaves, and they process gold daily. Now, the gold they're processing is 0.0 0.03. Let me make sure that I'm doing this by memory. Yeah, it's 0.003 roughly ounces of gold per ton. It's really small, but they process it in such a huge volume, and it's made Nevada the #1 gold producing state in the union and one of the best provinces in the world. I don't remember the numbers. I wish my brain were working. But if this small company has 100 million ounces of gold, it's bigger. It's bigger than what they have. They're on the Carlin trend. They're on the Carlin trend. But they become the natural buyers of this company. Newmont, Barrick, and Franco-Nevada. They're right there. They become the buyers, and you get stock and cash. Anyway, I didn't mean to talk about this. This company, which is their 6.6 million ounces of gold is based on a recovery of 0.038, which I think actually is the recovery. I think I put too many zeros. I think that is the recovery 0.033 at Barrick Gold and Newmont. But so this resource gets 0.038 using the same basic or similar methodology on sand. But what they've developed is two different methodologies that recover 0.20. So if they do that based on just the proven reserves by third party, and they've got to do that all again because it was so long ago, but it's there. That 6.6 million turns into 35 million ounces of gold just based on that. But the company can drill deeper, and they already have. It's just they have to drill deeper with a third party watching them to double that. And then they can drill in between and next to triple or quadruple or quintuple that. The resource in this tiny miner is so massive that it can become a story like Newmont Mining. Newmont Mining started with a small idea, Carlin trend. Anyway, so GDX is the three biggest companies in GDX are Newmont Gold Corp, Barrick, and Franco-Nevada. That's a third of the ETF. You can buy diversification by buying GDX, but I agree with Dr. Lieb. Dr. Lieb's preference would be that you just buy Newmont Gold, Franco-Nevada, Barrick separately. Just buy them separately because these ETFs have some weaknesses. So anyway, now he says GDXJ, the one I just showed you, tracks junior miners, including some small miners that have already begun production, and they do not have a large weighting. Two of his favorites, which I've read to you before, Nova Gold and Endeavor. You might get bigger gains by buying the JDXJ. Anyway, and then the Sprott Gold Miners ETF is a collection of gold stocks chosen by analysts at Sprott Asset Management. That's brilliant. So anyway, with that, I will answer your questions and then I'll sign off. Let's see how the stock prices are. Everything is down. But only by a little bit. A couple things are up by a little bit. Okay, here's Lee Wills. All the precious metal stocks, I guess, that I spoke of a few months back have been doing well. I'll do it again. I just have gone on and on and on. So I won't do it now, but I'll do it again. I might do a video on it. The market is unpredictable. You can only attest the risk level and take the on hose you want to play. When money is in, forget about it and act without emotions. Well, yeah, it's easier said than done. It really is easier said than done. But yes, Bo, you have to be, as I've told you, Bob Clayton at Merrill Lynch would say to us, you must become somewhat inured toward those losses your clients incur. And he said that 40 years ago. Elegant, very elegant man. And, I always remember it because it's true, but you have to do it in your own case too. If you, like you say, Bo, if you put the money up, you've done your analysis, you have your targets. And that's what I might do, show you how to do it with finger. I might show you, I might do it tonight or tomorrow. But you take out a pad of paper and you write down your reasons and you write everything down and you make your decision. And then that's something you can go look back on when you get emotional. Because when you've got too much money at risk, and we all done it at times, we get emotional. And so one thing is don't put so much money at risk. The other is if you're investing to try to change your financial situation, by definition, you're pushing your bet. So there are emotions. One way to do it the way you say is to write down why you got in it. Here's the reasons. Here's the people that you agree. Here's the risks you got to look out for. And you can check back later and stay unemotional. The Fuse, a book about a fair market. That maybe, I think you're saying maybe that's a good idea to write a book about fair market. Spiny, I always overpay. I haven't been able to do anything for quite a while now, but you bought how many? 52 shares at 203, and now it's 199. So you overpaid. I always feel like that. But remember, with finger motion, the CEO is going to answer questions. I got to remember to sign in for that. I'll try to do a video since I'm such a big blowhard. Maybe I should do a video that's specific and is out there supporting Finger. But there's a lot of good news going on at Finger. Spiny might, not that it matters. I think I've been under attack here, which I think I have been. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just have a thin skin. I think it has everything to do with Finger. It may be some gloating about GTII. It's possible. But I don't know, weeks, if not a couple months ago, I say, congratulations, guys, you won. I'm not going to fight them anymore. I'd give them all kudos. They won. But it doesn't mean I'm going away. Doesn't mean we're not going to keep fighting. But yeah, it's tough. You could have gotten a better deal. You know what I always say to myself, Spiny, is back when I used to be a big swinging petunia, I had to pay commission. Now I could usually get a minimum. The minimum went up. It went up to either $50 or $60 a ticket. So anyway, that's usually, like in your case, you didn't pay commission. So that's how I rationalize it. Darn it, I overpaid again, but then I think, yeah, but at least I didn't pay commission. I'll just call that the commission. You'll be all right, Spiny. I think you did a good job at 203. But I always say that to myself. It's been months since I've been able to say it to myself, but I always say I overpaid. Exact same words. The government takes our money, creates liquidity for the criminal shorter. Or, yeah, you got it. But I really think we can break through. Everybody that's working so hard, I think we can break through. Unfortunately, I think it's going to take a collapse in our stock market before the change comes. I hope not. I have GTII more than that, but be careful, guys. There's a stock that Mike's recommending. You can look at it. I'm not going to look at it now, but be careful. The either the short sellers or the frauds that talk to CEOs want people investors to all run into a stock. Even if it's up $1, they can start shorting and they can cover it at the end of the day or cover it tomorrow morning, make $1,000 and they're happy. So just be careful. I don't know if that's what Mike's doing here. I'm not accusing him, but just be careful. Yes, Rodney. Yes. The shorts are engineering ways out of the streams. Yeah, the shorts. Yes. Yes. I've tried to get to the CEOs. I went and met with and then spoke with by phone Jeremy Fromner. He's basically wrote me off, so you don't really know. And I had to agree with him. I didn't really know. He wanted proof. I didn't. Somebody I know and am close to spoke to the CEO and board of MMAT. They didn't listen. Another guy I know spoke to the CEO of RUM, spoke to the CEO of CRTD, spoke to the CEO of MULN. They didn't listen. With a very sincere intentions, I think put myself at great reputational risk. But I pressed my message against extraordinary attack back from a couple of the people involved. But I just figure they just don't see it yet. But I talked with the CEO by various methods of communication of collective audience. And I have to tell you, I have great respect for him. And I think he really is processing what he's heard from all sides. And I think he is giving it a fair shake. But I think he inherited the sting operation, in my judgment, that Aubrey Advisors set up from the jump. He likes those guys. He thinks they're, and a woman, he thinks they're honorable. So aren't they all honorable men? But anyway, he still is taking money from them. And it's really hard because the CEOs listen to lawyers and the lawyers tell them, if you don't take this deal, shareholders can sue you. It's in the interest of the lawyers because it's a gravy train that just does not stop. And it all starts with Reg's show. It's depressing. The companies would be worth more when they squeeze, and you could use the squeeze price. Look at what GME did. Look what COSM did. Look what Cosmo did. with our investors, with our audience. He came, hit, and ran. He never talks to anybody. Look what Roger Rabbit did. The best drum major of all time. Yeah. Pete Tong, there's a CEO out there, and I don't know where to tell you to go find the story. But he bought his entire float and then he had it delivered to his address. So not only did he buy with his own money his entire float, he had it delivered to himself, and they kept shorting. He wrote letters to the SEC. He wrote to FINRA, his broker. No one cared. No one cared. Were you buying, Pete Tong? You were buying? See, I like that thinking, Pete. There's three ways that GTII is going to get out of this. Maybe it's maybe they all blend together. But I see at least 1.5 way that they get out, and we can all make money in GTII. So I like your thinking, as long as you know it's risky. White House calls an emergency staff conference. CIA warns Israel of an attack. Well, Richard, I don't want to make any political statement, but the people who have been running the government while Joe Biden has been ineffectual, the only way they're going to hang on to power is if they get us in a war. Maybe 2 wars. And then Kamala, there's rumors Joe Biden is dead. I don't know if that's true. If Kamala becomes president, she becomes a war president, and people normally rally to war presidents. And then the Democrats stay in power. But more importantly, whoever's running the White House now stays in power. They don't want Trump. But big, maybe that was it, Anna. The big went through a receivership. The key is for you to know is courts look out for creditors first. That's their job. Secondly, I think lawyers, not what business school teaches you. CEOs are supposed to put shareholders first. But somehow, lawyers and courts and reality, I guess, CEOs can be manipulated to put the company first. Well, the company isn't anything. It's a person in the eyes of the law, but it has no, it's a fiction. A corporation is a fiction. But anyway, they've made the company the priority. Well, if you don't take care of the company, shareholders are going to lose anyway. Anyway, my point is the legal system has gotten CEOs off their responsibility, and they tell the CEO they're doing what they're supposed to by looking out for the company. Anyway, if a company goes through receivership, the struggle is to make sure that the court and our lawyers look out for shareholders first. That's my goal. Shareholders first. You all, current shareholders first. not the company, not some hired hand, not a CEO that comes in and gets $20 million if they get it to $2. I don't need to make $20 million if it goes to $2. I wouldn't mind getting some sort of shares or something, but I don't want to get, well, I'm not, it's not going to be me anyway, but I wouldn't want to get the benefit of shareholders' investment and pain and hurt because I came in and did a turnaround. No, I want it to go to shareholders. I want it to go to shareholders. XRP. Yeah, I wish I had gotten in at 39 cents. I like XRP, but Donna, I studied it 4, 5, 6 years ago or whenever. If I'm wrong, it's just my memory. I might have even bought $100 worth or something, but I don't know the ins and outs. Oh, sorry. I like it. But what I warn you, Donna, you're seeing that trade on all the front pages. You're seeing everybody talking about it. That indicates to me that the dollar has one last hurrah at a minimum. And I know the Saudis are going to pricing oil away from the dollar, but it won't take much of a direct eyeball to eyeball discussion that could change. The royal family has to decide, do they want to be with the United States? Do they want to be with Putin, Xi, India? And I don't know, maybe some combination. But I have a feeling that the United States has one last hurrah in it. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it's all going to collapse tomorrow. But I think when they're talking about it and when it's on the front page, that's not the thing that's going to surprise you. It's going to be something that they didn't talk about first. What could it be? I'll give you one. I'll give you one. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but I'll give you one. Saudi Arabia announces the new king when he announces that Saudi Arabia is no longer going to attempt to produce oil out of the empty quarter, and they're going to cut back in production out of the Ghawar field by half or more because they want to save all of the oil in the ground for future generations. And overnight, Saudi production falls from 10 million barrels a day to 5, and the country consumes 3. And that would be a shock that no one talks about. But that's the kind of shock that would change markets overnight. Not something BRICS and the dollar's going down and BRICS are winning. It's in the news too much. It's not the surprise. The behind the scenes, everybody's preparing for it. Might be news on settlement. True. Thank you. Yeah, these guys are all working very hard. There's guys you don't know their name. They're working hard. There's lawyers working hard. There's whales working hard. There's advisors working hard, but they can't come out and tell you what their strategy is because the guy from the hedge fund will short circuit it. AMC is squeezing. Be careful, guys. Don't rush over there. But on the other hand, if you think it's squeezing, go do it. Buy the dips, sell the rips. AMC has gone sideways for a long time. So that could be risk, which it usually means it's risk and it's going to go down. But it also could mean that it's set up because they've been trying to get it down. It's set up to rally. This is AMC. They've tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now they just did 6. Now the 7th time they've broken through, according to this chart, they've broken through the 200-day moving average, which is a positive. Now it broke through, it punctured it, and then immediately got it to close down in the middle. The 20-day and 50-day moving average are moving upward. The stock is decisively above both the 20-day and the 50-day moving average. And yeah, I'd have to agree with Volk Stoy King that AMC has a real chance. If it were to get through 549 one more time and then stay above it, you certainly could get a double or so in that stock pretty quickly. So I have to agree with Volstoy King. AMC looks like it could. It's risky, but it could break out. Ripples is another one. Wow. Yeah, momentum plays can go against you, but it's at 529 right now. If it breaks below 492, watch it carefully. But those lines are all converging. So it's going to go one way or the other. And I think Volstoy King could be right. He could be right that it breaks out. Thank you, flying bus driver. Does not give financial advice. Thank you, flying bus driver. It's a crypto market right now. Could be very much. By the way, Volkstoy, your guys your age, investors your age, I've been around them. You guys are always checking your phones and your computers, and you guys trade crypto. You don't trade gold or silver. You guys do trade crypto. So that's something to know. You're 100% right. And it's not just you. I mean, it's young people. I call you young people in Africa, Southeast Asia, Middle East. It's all over. I agree with you. I mean, I could write that post. I agree. I mean, you could sell it at a penny, maybe, but I don't think you. I wouldn't do that. It's August. I would wait till December, but at the end of the year, if we're still here, you might be able to write it off and take a tax loss. In your case, there was a guy on yesterday that said I think he had 20,000 in GTII. And I was giving the example of how he could use a tax loss. I forgot to point out in my example, which I'm not going to bore you with, but I looked at it later. I forget how many shares he had, but I looked at it later. If he were able to take that tax loss and use it in a Democratic administration, it was worth $1.70 a share. I did the calculation after I got offline. So tax losses have value, particularly if you have other gains. I doubt you lost all your money in GTII, Old Mo. I really do. I doubt you put all your money in it. In fact, I have a feeling you made a lot of money shorting GTII. But if you're still in GTII with all your money, I think the number one thing you have to do is accept that you lost everything. That, if you can do that, that takes emotion out. I'm going backwards in the question, so I don't know when this question came, but I believe there's 3 ways ahead for GTII. One is all the people that are suing each other sit down and agree how they're going to walk away from the conference table with releases and with everyone held harmless, and with GTII still a company as is. That would leave the short position in place. That would leave you in place as a shareholder. And then it's time to go to work raising plain vanilla money to bring in real assets that can overnight change the story and maybe cause a short squeeze. That's one way. What are the odds? I think it's low odds because I think both Reichman and the hedge fund guy probably don't want to do it because I think at least one of them is working for the shorts. But that's one, and it could happen. It could happen. We could find out that's happening within 2 or 3 weeks. The guy that's doing it works hard, has a vision, and has tremendous energy. He's brought one of the guys that comes on here from time to time. Ham introduced him, and he's got a couple others. He's got a good team going. He has access to Ham. Ham is giving the doors open. But what he's bringing is the assets and the hard work and the vision. And so that could happen, Old Mo. So I at least would hold your stock until he gets through that. But it's in receivership. So we have to acknowledge that it's a court system now, and that could take months. It could go into next year. Now, Ham has brought these guys a shell. Maybe they just go in the shell and everybody starts over again. But I'm sure they'll figure it out. The third way is bankruptcy. And if that happens, the likelihood, Old Mold, is you'd be totally wiped out. But the good news is you won't have to cover all the shares you shorted. Because in bankruptcy, there's no closing transaction, there's no 1099, and you'll be able to take your money out and you'll never worry about being covered, you know. Yeah, Wizard Gray Balls. I think the market could crash after the election. It also could crash next year. I don't know when, but I think it could be a hard landing. The only caveat I have on it is if 300 million people get behind Donald Trump. I don't see that happening, but it could. Well, I got to think about it tonight. I have to do it tonight. Flying bus driver. Thank you, flying bus driver. Heath Roach. Thank you, Donna. We all made our decision. I own it. I'm not here. Anyway.
Cauldron, Andy.
Hello? Yeah, I'm fine. Huh?
Someone's threatening
Sorry, guys. No, Old Mold, I won't do that. I think Ace does a good job. And I think people that invested in any stock uh, shouldn't just invest in one stock. And I know, I know you're smarter than that, Old Mold. I don't think I think you're pretending to be a victim when in fact you're part of the problem. The reverse split was needed. 20% spike. I guess I'm mixing it up. Yeah. Okay, RW. I was in since 21. Oh, that's Adam Apple? Adam Aaron. Old Mold, I would call your broker and find out why you can't sell it. We don't do crazy here. How did that go? How did that go? Uh, now there it is.
Anyway, dear, thank you for everything, Nora. Forgive my recent crankiness. I'll call when things get back on track, okay?
Híjole,
Huh? What's wrong?
who's gonna walk that bill?
Oh, no. No.
Is he dead yet?
No. Would there be any way that you would be willing to walk his dog for him?
Absolutely.
You're a wonderful man. 2 o'clock would be a good time, and here is the key in case he is asleep. Open his curtains for him so he can see God's beautiful work. And he'll know that even things like this happen for the best.
Where do they teach you to talk like this? In some Panama City sailor want a hump bar? Or is this getaway day and your last shot of this whiskey? Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
So anyway, Old Mold, sell crazy somewhere else. We're all stocked up here. Oh, you did? I think I emailed you. Let me look. Quickly, I think you have to check your spam folder. But I won't waste everybody else's time but I remember sending it. So check your spam folder and I'll try again. I'll try again. Sell crazy somewhere else, old mold 54. We're all full up here. Thank you for your advice. Hey, John Platinum. The problem is I've done nothing but lose people money. I don't know if that's true. Tim Higginbotham. But I do think even from any price that I told people about GTII, if they didn't trade it or sell it, they've lost money. If people bought CRTD, and I can't remember if ever I was really positive on that. I can't remember, but I lost a lot of money on CRTD, so I may have been positive on it. A lot of people were excited about it. I guess you can blame me for the CEO not selling his company for $3, which would have been a trade, but he and it was press released, it was out there, and at the last minute he canceled it. Maybe he did the right thing. 2 years later, maybe he did the right thing. Both stocks are twins of each other. MMTLP, I don't remember ever telling anybody to get in it. Why? Because if I did, it was at the last day, and I didn't tell anybody. It was more people telling me, you guys telling me about it. And what's another one that lost money? I never told you to buy MMAT, MULN, GME, AMC. Never told you to buy any of those. Finger, if you're judging that, well, judge it. But I don't know what price you paid. I never once gave you an indication of I don't remember recommending buying at any price. But if you're in Finger, I really feel like Finger, depending on which percentages you invested, I think you can make all your money back in Finger, but you might have to wait. And the problem with waiting is the stock market might be headed for a dramatic hard landing next year. But anyway, I don't think the story's over in Finger. If you invested in Logic, Logic, they did the D-SPAC and collected it became Logic and Collective Audience. And I haven't done the arithmetic because frankly I forgot. And in my account, it just has an entry. It doesn't have how many. I don't think it does. I'll look. But anyway, I'm trying to do a calculation of what Collective Audience is worth and what Logic's worth. I don't know. Some people probably are break even, but a lot of people are down. I don't think the story's over yet. But yeah, you got to wait. So if people sell here, they lost money. I think Logic's on the verge of a nice move. But, I paid basically 35 cents for my Logic. And then I averaged some down. But I have the Collective Audience that hasn't been issued yet. You have to wait 11 months. If you bought HNRC, the shorts got that down. But the time I was talking about it, they made that distribution of worldwide holdings, and that hasn't started trading yet. I don't think the story's over there yet, but stock's down. What else would I have recommended that you're talking about? Don't have my list here. Wolf is up very nicely. Very nicely. Wolf is up. I'm mad at myself, but Wolf is way up. What else is there out there? Anyway, Tim, I don't think that statement is correct, but it is true that a number of these stocks, look, Tim, if people invest you, me, in these stocks, Wall Street counterfeit shares with abandon because nobody enforces settlement. So that's what we're up against. We're salmon swimming upstream. But every now and then we get to hop up over the dam. It's hot here, and I wish I could go back and short every stop. Ham pumped, I'd be retired. I don't think ham pumped, number one, but you can call it whatever you want. But your friends pump. The Kramers, the Eastons of the world, they pump. Now, you know how they pump? They pump to the CEO that they are going to be a financial partner. And then they start shorting. So your friends, Lucas, using the market maker exemption in Reg Show, they just started selling recklessly, perpetually, and they eventually win. So Lucas, you picked the right side to be on. Being a criminal is very profitable. Well, speak freely. You're writing that to cause doubt, and I hope it works for you. I hope you get paid that I said your name out loud. Is there any hope to hanging on to my 2,500 shares of Finger, or should I cut my losses? I'll say two things. Do your own homework. You obviously do none, but there's two interviews I did with Martin Shen this year. There's another interview Martin Shen did this year. Go listen to him. Read the news releases. More importantly, Martin Shen is going to take questions and answers July 25th. Sign up for it. My answer is, I think Finger Motion at $2 is as cheap as it can be. And I think it's going to double or triple from here. But hey, speak freely, sell freely. Hey, what's with the negative vibes? Be free. Speak freely, sell freely, buy freely, post crap freely, spread FUD freely. Do whatever you want freely. Lucas, for you, there's not a single rumor. Lucas, you couldn't handle a rumor. If it worked, you'd take credit for the trade. If it didn't work, you'd go crying, we all the way home and blame it on him. There's no rumors. None. I have no rumors to tell you. None. Gugaboo. Gubaboo. How do you say that? Gubagoo. That's very good, Lou Grosso. Farrell, why do you post that? You gotta relax your mind. When look with GTII, let's look back in retrospect so that you learn it for the future times. when it broke 3, when it broke 250, when it broke 2, when it broke 150, when it broke 1, when it broke 75 or 80, when it broke 60, when it broke 45, when it broke 20, when it broke 15, when it broke 10. These are all times with pain that you should stop and think, maybe I should sell some. Why? Because it's breaking down. And if you just watch the charts, it was there. You don't need someone to hold your hand. It's not going up, it's going down. The hard part is, as it's going up, is the worst time to buy. I'm not going to defend myself, but the worst time to buy a stock is as it's going up, particularly these stocks. Unless you've done your homework and you know, but you've got to have a trigger finger. I mean that in terms of buy and sell orders, Yahoo. I mean YouTube. I'm talking about being quick on the buy order, sell order. You have to have a quick finger. Because if you're buying as a stock is in the mania of going up, you might be able to get out at a higher price. But that mania is going to stop and it's going to pull back at some time. The best time to buy stocks, in my judgment, and I've always said it, always done it, is when it's pulled back and when there's doubt, which is odd. I was talking about this one, but finger right now at $2. I like Stoney buying 52 shares. Oh God, it's down, it's down. Oh my God, it's down. I'm losing money. That's usually the time to buy. It's hard, particularly when you don't have any money. And I know the feeling. I know the feeling. All right, Cooper's human. I don't know how to do it. I forgot. I always have to look up how to do it. All right, I'm going to go to the bottom. I apologize for not going much higher. There are opportunities. Oh God, now I don't have any more thoughts. Pharaoh, when a stock goes from 2 cents to 1 cent, it's lost 50% of its value. But to go from 1 cent to 2 cents back, it has to gain 100%. Stocks don't do that very often, much less go from $1 to 1 penny. You can't play with hope. You can't play with hope. They would love you to sell. I don't think it matters. I don't think you can sell anyway. I don't think your shares are what's going to change the game. But yes, daily, weekly, they want you to sell in all these stocks. But at some point, it might be the right thing to do. It's too late to sell GTII. What are you going to get, a penny? I mean, you can do what you want. I'm not selling mine at a penny. But I mean, you can do whatever you want. Pharaoh, focusing on GTII right now is a waste of energy. If you want a trade, to me, the best trade out there might be Logic, LGIQ, but you might have to wait till September. Oh my gosh. So it's probably not good. It's not a good one for you. Finger, you might have to wait till September, but Finger is a great trade. I think the gold mining stocks, just keep focusing on GTII. Let's talk about it every day for an hour, 2 hours a day. While we're at it, let's talk about DBMM. Let's talk about HPIL. Let's talk about VNUE. Let's talk about MMAT. Let's do it every day, just endlessly, over and over and over again. Or do you want to try to make some money? I don't think you can try to make instantaneous money. I think you can take $500 and with luck, turn it into $2,500. And then you have $2,500. With luck, you can turn that into $5,000, $7,500. Take that and maybe you can turn that into $15,000. And then maybe there's a trade there that turns that into 30. And then you can start spreading things out. But if you're looking for one stock that's going to take you to the top, baby, it's not GTII. It's not GTII. Every man has the same come on. All right, I'm going to try to go to the bottom and answer some of these. Don't put another dime in the market. Well, that's true, Jay. The problem is, I agree with you. I don't think you guys should put any money in the markets if you don't want to. I do think there's, anyway, that's a good solution, Jay, for you, and for some people it is. People do make money in the market, Roaring Kitty, others. But I'm fine with that. Don't put any money in the market. I'm fine with that, Jay. I can improve on it. Just don't put money in the market. There, I agree with that, Jay. Buy gold and silver. I agree. I think you can make all the money in silver. I think you can. There are opportunities out there. All right, I'm at the end of the comments. I'm going to sign off. There's a rumor out there. Let me just check before I sign off. There's a rumor out there that Kamala is already president, or should be. Let's see. The brokered convention is canceled. So there's no democracy in the Democratic Party. A woman or a man, a person who never won a single primary is going to have a virtual convention. Apparently. Joe Manchin will not run for for president. So I guess it's going to be Kamala. So the Democratic Party is there to save democracy. They didn't allow anybody to run against Joe. And now to replace him, they just selected Kamala. Just remember, if you vote for Trump, he's against democracy. The Democrats are for democracy. Just remember that. So it looks like Kamala Harris is going to be the candidate, unless they're just putting her out there and she'll bomb the way the debate did for Joe. But let me see where the rumor is. There it is. At I don't know what time is Joe Biden already demised? Boebert demands proof of life by 5 p.m. Lauren Boebert, I demand proof of life by 5 p.m. He needs to get in front of some camera and discuss if he's aware that he dropped out. Anyway, I wish everyone the best. Pray for Jenny L. and pray for peace in the world. Really, pray for peace in the world. Netanyahu's here, and I think by the time he goes home, war is going to be higher in the Middle East. And judging by a lot of the feedback, I guess people support us attacking Russia. Russia is going to build a refinery in Cuba. And Venezuela, the world's by some measures, the world's largest oil reserves is in Venezuela, but it's basically sludge. That where they are refineries in Houston, Texas, all of our refineries are set up to process Venezuelan crude. If Russia builds it in Cuba, that's another attack. This all happens under, well, anyway, we'll see. Kamala will get us out of it. LPSN, I don't know that one. That's pretty good. You got a trade call. I don't know anything about it, but maybe you sell half and take your money off the table. I wish I had done that. All right, anyway, peace to everybody.